Hello, everyone, and welcome to this emergency episode of the One and O podcast. My name is Avery Hill.
I'm Lyle Allenstein.
I'm Will Horseman.
James Franklin was just hired by Virginia Tech. That's exactly why we're here for an emergency podcast. That is all we'll talk about. Lyle, Will, I'll toss it to you first. What are your initial impressions?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like things were trending this direction for a little bit. Multiple reports came out this weekend saying that they were in the early stages of a talk. They is in James Franklin and the Virginia Tech Hokies, and they got it done Monday. Reports came trickling in. They just made it official with a statement. I think this is a good hire for Virginia Tech and a good fit for James. Um, James is, you look at what he did at Vanderbilt. You look what he did at Penn State. He's a program builder. He brings them into winning football teams. Anything more than that, I don't know what you want looking for in Virginia Tech, but if you're going 8-4, 9-3 in a ACC conference that James Franklin has not said at least over the last couple of years that the Big Ten and the SEC are better conferences, right? It's the two big brands in college football, and James Franklin's not even a part of it. So I think this is a good fit. I think James is going to build that program up pretty quickly. Is the ACC, right? So you don't have the Ohio States and the Michigans if he's at the Big Ten school. You don't have the Bamas, the Georgia if he's in an SEC school. So it's curious to see. We're going to have him speak to everybody in the media. He's got an introductory press conference, 10 a.m. on Wednesday. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make it to Blacksburg. But
You sure?
we'll see if we can get it moving
I
up
mean,
and
he had
moving.
private jet hours. I'm sure Pat will toss it to me real quick
Speaking
now.
of which, Roanoke's runway, smaller than the State College one, something to note there. But overall, first impressions, this is a good hire. Obviously, there's other implications that I'm sure we're going to get into. But first impression, good fit for James, good fit for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great fit for James for moving forward. As he moves into the ACC, I mean, he went 5-1 against ACC teams during his tenure at Penn State. So I think he's in a good position to succeed. There's obviously not going to be like championship like expectations right away in Virginia Tech. I mean, they just fired former Penn State defensive coordinator Brent Pry as their head coach earlier this year. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Virginia Tech they kind of went down a little bit these past couple of years, but I think if he can get back to like 10-win seasons like that, he should be praised as like a really good coach for the Hokies. And I mean, I think it would be really interesting to see if there's any consideration that if Brent Pry comes back as defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech. I mean, obviously, we all know he has relationships with James. Obviously, he was defensive coordinator with him at Vanderbilt and Penn State. So I think that could be something interesting to see if it actually ends up happening. But I mean, yeah, it's a great. I think it's a great fit for James. I mean, he's going to stay in like that DMV area, which he's recruited so well over the years with the Nittany Lions. And I think he's immediately set up to have a good start to kind of build the program in Blacksburg.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it. I'm going stock up, enter Sandman.
Dang.
Stock down, Penn State and Maryland, specifically Mike Locksley, because he'll have to play James Franklin, I think it's September 19th next year. That's not going to be pretty, but Will, you hit it right on the nail. I mean, the DMV connections, James Franklin gets to stay in that same recruiting database and even extend it a little further south. Obviously, he's been able to get Virginia guys, but now that can kind of extend into maybe North Carolina guys. I know one from last year, I think it was Bryce Baker, North Carolina guy that Penn State was sort of in on when the, whole coaching change happened. Does that change now? I mean, I don't know what, the state of North Carolina's recruiting data, or in terms of the Tar Heels at least. I don't know what could change, but just in general, I mean, that expands his recruiting horizons now. Obviously, he still has the connection with the guys from Pennsylvania. We could easily see him bring guys from either Penn State or from the, recent commits or decommits from Penn State, who obviously left after James Franklin was fired. But there's a lot that can change. I mean, I think my biggest reaction to all of this is Virginia Tech could get back to national prominence. You talk about the 10-win seasons. Virginia Tech has three 10-win seasons since 2010. Their most recent 10-win season is 2016, and they haven't been ranked since 2020. Obviously, COVID year, but they were ranked the years before. So, it still is valid. I think that if you are Virginia Tech, it doesn't automatically push you in the championship conversations. But I think at this point in college football, it pushes you close. I think if James Franklin can go and do a complete overhaul, Virginia Tech obviously now has enhanced resources, which I'm pretty sure has something to do with them getting James Franklin because of course they're going to want James Franklin. If you're Virginia Tech, I think you feel like you're in a similar position to Penn State, not Penn State of now, but Penn State at the program as a program, around the time James Franklin was hired. Not when he was hired, obviously, but around those first few years. I mean, an incredible fan base. Having a program which I wouldn't consider Virginia Tech a blue blood, obviously, but a story program, which again attributes or contributes to that atmosphere. Being really in the middle of nowhere. I don't really know what's near Blacksburg, but I know it's in the middle of nowhere. Like all of those things kind of coming together, plus the enhanced resources, it just makes sense for Virginia Tech to go with James Franklin, and it was just a matter of if James Franklin would do so. Obviously, you had the reports over the weekend just about James Franklin mulling over the decision. I thought it would have been interesting to see what happens with the Terrapins, like we talked about with Mike Loxley, who, as their athletic director said, he will be sticking around, which again means he will get that matchup with Mike Loxley, the guy that he obviously probably despises after that last showing where Penn State ran up the score and James Franklin's like, basically if you care or if it's a problem, stop it. So I mean, there's a lot of intriguing things to look to with Virginia Tech. I mean, guys, I think the biggest thing that you talk about is James Franklin's in the ACC. James Franklin, obviously, as Lyle alluded to, has been, big game James, unable to win those games against Ohio State and against Michigan. As you talked about, if he went to the SEC, that wouldn't just be Alabama and Georgia, that would really be like at least five or six teams in the conference, depending on the year. Ole Miss would consider a big game, but depending on what they do at the end of the year, they're like, oh, that's not really a big game. Like, it's kind of similar to how I think had Penn State beat Oregon, I feel like that's kind of how it would have been framed because Oregon would have been like, oh, and especially if they lose to Indiana, oh, it's a two-loss team. It doesn't really count, moving the goalposts, of course. But I mean, just to stick back to the question, I mean, do you think that James Franklin can be dominant in the ACC? Do you think there is a real threat? I mean, I know we can look at Clemson and other programs in the ACC, but what do you guys think? Miami, that's what I
Yeah,
was missing. There we go. My bad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you look at, um, I guess outside of Clemson's recent dominance, not including this year, the ACC's got different teams emerging every single season. I mean, you could just point at, Florida State. You get that buzz at the beginning of this year after they beat Bama, and all of a sudden Norval's on the hot seat, right? Florida State, Miami, another inconsistent program. You saw SMU make the playoff in their first year as the ACC. It's just so many teams that have just like Wake, not within the last 2 years, but like you maybe push that back a few years with Sam Hartman running the show. It's like, ACC teams emerge out of nowhere, right? It's pretty hit or miss. There's obviously a reason why they're an inferior football conference, and it's just right up James Franklin's alley. Like he builds winning football teams. He doesn't win team. He builds a team that can win a few bowl games and then not get over the hump. But it's the ACC, right? I'm really curious to see if he gets asked. I hinted at, I said this in my first comments, but just where he feels the ACCs and the football stacks up, and what if he just flips the script and says, "Yeah, this is a premier football conference," after making all these past things about why the Big Ten and the SEC are so great, having had the previous experience coaching in both of them. It's a good. I think like we've hit on all these different things, right? But just he builds programs into winning programs. It's right in the sweet spot, in his where he's succeeded as a recruiter. He's got enough resources. I think Virginia Tech is going to invest in how he wants to run the show, right? There's no reason you don't bring him on because I think Franklin could have waited, maybe see if Auburn or Florida State opened up, right? Like, but I
Auburn
think
is open.
I mean, like if they were seriously going to pursue him even more, like I'm sure Auburn's looking Drink, Kiffin, like they're going to throw
Yeah.
their hand at that, but like he's going to want to run it how he runs it. He's Penn State had full control, which I think you could point at as some of the downfalls as to him as a coach. But if you're Virginia Tech, why not let him run the ball, right? Like he's got the experience. He's like, I'm not James Franklin didn't turn out to what Penn State fans wanted him to be, but he's still a good football coach, right? Like you can point at his flaws, you can point out what he does well. There's a middle ground somewhere in there, but given how his coaching career's panned out, given his track record of winning football games, right? Not winning the ones you want to, the big game James, his ability to recruit, his ability to develop NFL talent. Virginia Tech, like you can do all that, right? It's a perfect fit. I mean, I've said this multiple times in multiple different ways. It is a good spot for him. He can build the Hokies back up to where they are in the ACC right now. To a, I don't want to call it like an upper echelon because at the same time it's the ACC and the teams that win every single year change, but a team that can win at the top on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Virginia Tech's schedule next year. I mean, it could take maybe a season or two for like James to get back to like consistent 10-win seasons. But like, look at their schedule next year. The non-con is VMI, Old Dominion, Maryland, and James Madison. You got like Clemson, Miami, Pitt, like NC State, Georgia Tech, Boston College, like in the conference schedule. And it's like there's not like a Ohio State or Michigan or like Oregon or like one of those teams that Franklin obviously faced in the Big Ten every year and just never got over the hump. So I mean, I think if he gets back to like 10-win seasons at Virginia Tech, there's not as tall as like a hump if there really is at all as he faced in the Big Ten. Because I think James Franklin can build the Hokies into like a consistent like contender in the ACC, and it's like with like conference schedules and just like non-con schedules like that. It's like I think James Franklin he'll be set up well to like be a contender for ACC, make a push for a playoff bid, and I really don't see how Virginia Tech doesn't get better with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing that again we talk about is that's the recruiting aspect of it. If you look at Penn State, or if you look at Virginia Tech, look at the previous years. Obviously, you have guys like Michael Vick who have come through the program, Tyrod Taylor. Marcus Vick was a highly touted recruit when he came as well, obviously brother of Michael Vick. Kendall Fuller, obviously, as well, which was a DMV native, went to good counsel, same as where obviously James Franklin got landed Tangwall, same place that Stephon Diggs came out of. A lot of talent there. You can go down the list, Kevin Jones, Logan Thomas, obviously, everyone's favorite tight end slash quarterback outside of Tyler Warren, which you could see more of that at Virginia Tech. I mean, I think
Luke Reynolds,
yes, exactly, and that's where
Peyton
I'm going. Like,
Falzone, if you want to go deep in the bag here.
yeah, you can go deep in the bag, look at whoever, all these multi-position players, but I think the state of college football right now makes Virginia Tech the perfect opportunity for James Franklin. Again, it's no longer that, okay, it takes me 6 years to build a program, which, I mean, James Franklin, his ascension at Penn State, given especially where Penn State started, was a quick rise. But nowadays, it's a lot easier. You look at the portal, NIL, which again, I don't know exactly what Virginia Tech's NIL package is now, but obviously I know it's enhanced. And I think that'll be something to look for. I mean, you look at bringing guys in. You can talk about the Penn State guys, which he could probably get. I mean, Lexi talked about some of these people on psucollegian.com. That's psucollegian.com. You click psucollegian.com, click football. First, my bad. I said click psucollegian.com. You got to click Google first. Sometimes people
Google.
Google. Sometimes people just type in Google or type in the search. However you do it, you got to get to psucollegian.com. You click the football tab. You can scroll down. It'll be right there. You're welcome, Lexi Lenderman. But but I just think that, when there's a lot of people that James Franklin now has a chance to pull even easier than it was in previous years. Like if this was, 2013, it would be a lot harder for him to bring coaches different. Players, it would have been a lot harder. Obviously, transfer rules, things like that. There wasn't really a portal. Obviously, guys having to sit out a year. There's a lot of risks that went into it now. But now you can see a lot of people, go down the list or, go down to Blacksburg, Virginia. Guys, who do you think some key people for Penn State that James Franklin could poach? And even like if you look across the country, you can look at people that James Franklin recruited and been unable to get for one reason or another, flips, things like that, commits. I mean, who do you think familiar faces to the Happy Valley faithful in a good way or bad way will join James Franklin or could join James Franklin at Virginia Tech?
Players, I'm not gonna, we're not gonna, I don't want to go naming everybody here. Players,
Yeah, you
I
can
immediately
read
look at,
most of everybody at psucollegian.com, of course,
yeah,
but
players, I immediately look at Tony Rojas and Amari Campbell, two Virginia native linebackers who both were playing really well together before Tony Rojas suffered a long-term injury. That was a good linebacker duo. They were friends. They were around each other growing up playing football in Virginia. And obviously, Tony Rojas played a big part in getting Amari Campbell to transfer from UNC this season. They were both really close. why not go? And obviously, Amari Campbell got recruited by James Franklin to come to Penn State, right? So why not go follow him? Your home state. Either of them could declare for the draft in theory this year. If I think Amari Campbell is a safe fourth, fifth round pick, but why not go play another year of college ball, make some money on NIL, go try to raise that stock even more? Tony Rojas, who's having a great year, I don't think it makes sense for him to declare for the NFL, given that he's only played in 3 or 4, something like that, just a few games. So go play with under James Franklin. I'm sure James Franklin will go after him. Tony Rojas has been pretty open on social media supporting James when he was fired. He even reposted him today, congratulating him. So those are the two players. Coaches, Ty Howell. He's the DMV lead recruiter, tight ends coach. He could get some offensive coordinator buzz. He's a letterman at Penn State. He's been on staff for a few years now with James. You look at that tight end factory that Penn State's been producing. Why not try to go bring him on? He's one of, if not arguably, the best coach on the Penn State position coaches. Terry Smith as well, right? Obviously, based on what we saw earlier today with how much Penn State needs him, it's going to take a whole lot to get him out of here. But if he's not sticking around, I think he goes follow James down to Blacksburg, and then recruits Davion Brown, Virginia wide receiver who decommitted, 4-star.
Fat Rat.
Yeah, Fat Rat, sick name. Home state, right? Why not go play in your home state? Coach that recruited you, he backed off his options. He hasn't gone anywhere else. So there's a Matt Sieg, another one who's 4-star safety, Pennsylvania guy, but he's still committed. He's opened up his recruitment, but he hasn't backed off it. He's getting some heavy hitters. Notre Dame is after him. They're only going to take one more guy in that recruiting class, and it's going to be Matt Sieg if they want him. Pitt's after him. Obviously, he's from Pittsburgh, West Virginia as well. But he's been pretty open to, like, he's a Penn State guy, I think, but he loves James Franklin. And he said when he listed his finalists on a report, it was before national signing day, it was Penn State, Pitt, Notre Dame, West Virginia, and wherever James Franklin goes. Brian Doan from 247 Sports tweeted today saying that he heard from multiple 2026 commits or former commits, and they said they would 100% go take an official visit wherever James Franklin ends up if it's for signing day. That's exactly what happened, and we'll go see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think to go back to coaches, I mean, you look at like Chuck Losey. I mean, he said over the summer that like James Franklin was his guy, and it's like he loves working under Franklin. So I think he's probably a guy to watch for if any of the like Penn State assistants go follow Franklin to Blacksburg. But I think like players, because I agree with like basically all the players like Lyle said, but like generally speaking, it's like a lot of players like to play under Franklin. I mean, you saw like after Franklin got fired, I mean, Terry Smith said like the locker room was like emotional, and it was like when Franklin had like that last meeting with his players, like that was an emotional moment for the team. And you look at it like the recruiting class, it's like obviously like all the entire 2027 class like decommitted, and then a lot of the 2026 class like opened stuff up, and like you've already seen people commit elsewhere. And so I think there's a lot of the players love to play for James Franklin. So I think there's definitely going to be some like flips to Virginia Tech in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we've got to know about James Franklin is he loves familiar faces. You can look at the guys on his staff, whether it's previous connections, their dad, all these different things. You can look at his weekly scouting report where he's like, "Oh, I've known so and so coach for this long," or "I knew his dad," "I knew his family." I think there's, a lot of factors with that. I mean, James Franklin's big on loyalty. He's obviously a big, not just a recruiter as a recruiting high school guys and recruiting transfers. He's trying to recruit coaches. He was able to get Jim Knowles in. He was able to get, what seemed like a good hire at the time in Andy Kotelnicki. He has, made a lot of different moves that he's been able to do because of his ability to make people believe in his vision. Poindexter, getting Terry in, like things like that. So I think with this, you'll see a lot of names that aren't even at Penn State anymore that he has connections with. I mean, the one that obviously we talked about is Brent Pry. Does he go back to the place that just fired him to be defensive coordinator under which, I mean, I don't know how much he was making at Virginia Tech, but I don't think his deal would be that bad at Penn or at with the Hokies. It may not be that contract, which is that's if you're the agent and you're negotiating that contract and you're just getting less. at the same school, I don't know. I mean, I
I wonder
think
if he
he
put his
would.
house on the market yet.
Yeah, I wonder. He might not have. He might have knew.
Yeah,
Brent always knew. Maybe. But
maybe.
I think another name. I don't know how this one will go. I think part of his departure probably had to do. I don't know for sure, but probably had to do with money and resources. Why not at least call Jaywan Sider back? Obviously, long time,
Mm.
his running backs coach was, is at Notre Dame now, and Jeremiah Love. I mean, I wouldn't say took off because Jeremiah Love has always been Jeremiah Love. Jadarian Price as well. Like that running back room was elite, but he made it even more. I'm gonna say a word that's not a word, a leader. He made it even more a leader. I think you call him. I think you call him. Virginia Tech probably is going to give him more to hire assistants, more money to hire assistants than Penn State. I don't know that for sure, but again, if you say enhance NIL package and enhance, investment in the program. If I'm James Franklin, that's what I expect. I'm pretty sure him and Jimmy Sexton, obviously his agent, super agent, knew what they're getting in the program at Virginia Tech. I don't think he would take less resources to go there because I still think personally that James Franklin's easily a top 10 coach. I think my argument's top seven. You could push it top five depending on what's going on, but I think given his recruiting background, given his development as a coach, which again there is an asterisk when you look at the end how his tenure ended. But I think when James Franklin is, I don't know, full help is not the word, but like when James Franklin is on, there's not many coaches that can stop him. That's not named Ryan Day, and like when he's not playing in these big games, when James Franklin's on, he's going to win every big game. Um, he's going to make at this point in his career, he started to make more gutsy calls. He's going to roll the dice, do what he has to do to win the game. I think that translates down in ACC, down at Virginia Tech. I think that the opportunity there again to get coaches like that and say, hey, we have better resources now. You'll be playing in the ACC, so you don't have to worry about being sad about losing to the Ohio State every year. You'll get some guys to come back. I don't know, the state of his relationship with Jaywan Sider. I mean, obviously Sider voices support for Terry Smith after the win, and so did James Franklin, not publicly James Franklin, but Terry Smith did say he talked to James Franklin after winning his first game as interim head coach. But I think there could be a lot of movement. Again, you can go back to players. I think all the Virginia natives you want to kind of mock there. You can, we want to throw Matt Henderson in the mix. And then you can look at the rest of the DMV. He's going to go after some guys. I think it'll be interesting to see if he really rolls the dice and goes for maybe some of the five stars that he missed out on. Manuel Iheanacho is one that I think of, which I don't think he would, given Oregon can easily outbid them and literally anyone in the country. But why not make the call? Obviously, Penn State was an opportunity to stay close to home, but Virginia Tech is as well. Georgetown prep guy. I mean, I think there's other five stars on the board that you want to go after. I think if James Franklin watched the game Saturday, which I'm sure he did because he can't stay away from college football, as seen by his various appearances, with one of matchup with two of his former assistants in Gerard Parker of Troy and Ricky Ronnie of Old Dominion. He might call one. I don't think he calls Ricky Ronnie because Ricky Ronnie. Why would he do that? Like they play Virginia Tech every year. I think that would obviously be a step down. It's not like, Old Dominion doesn't compete with some, not top teams in the country, but Old Dominion competes with just about the same level of competition as Virginia Tech. I don't think you do that, but I do think he makes a couple calls around. I mean, I think it'll just be interesting to see how all this shapes out because as we've seen now, college football changes and it changes fast. None of us, no one in, in within a, I would say 50-mile radius of Penn State or no one in the world, you could say, expected James Franklin to be in this situation. Not only was he fired by Penn State, he's already been hired. He's at Virginia Tech, so I think a lot could change. Well, that's all we have for today. This was an emergency podcast, so we'll get a little more of this in on Thursday. We get a little more details. But again, that's all we have. For more coverage, visit us at psucollegian.com, follow us on socials, and tune into our newsletter for content curated right to your inbox every Monday and Friday. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.